here's another nice native indigenous to wet areas. Here it is growing naturally up in West Virginia. This is the winterberry holly. It's a deciduous holly. It can be 6 to 10 feet tall, the species, but you can get, red sprite. There are a lot of smaller varieties out there. It's naturally found in swampy areas. It's a holly, so it likes acidic soil, so it wants a low pH. It wants a high organic matter soil. It does well in sun to part shade. But like I said, it's really good. It's a good one for the swampier areas. It's nice and dense and twiggy, so it's actually a good cover plant to plant for birds too. They like to nest in it, and they'll eat the berries as well. Now with hollies, they have separate male and female plants, so you want to make sure you buy the females, but you want to buy one male for every 3-4 females. You want a male pollinator so that you get good fruit set. Okay, and this is the other one I had listed too, is the beauty berries. There's several species of beauty berries out there, and these are just drop dead gorgeous. Beautiful shrubs. The native one's kind of interesting. It's a little coarser than the dichotoma, which is more vase and sort of hanging over. The native one's a little more upright. It's a little coarser, but what's nice about the native one is the flowers, which you don't really see, are nice and fragrant, so you'll smell them through the garden if you have them. And they have these beautiful magenta or purple type berries. This one does well in part shade or dappled shade. It does well in average soils. And 12 species of birds eat the berries, which is great too, including bobwhite, cardinals, and robins. So it's a good bird food plant. Another good one for shade situations are the oak leaf hydrangeas. These guys are really rugged. Another native. 4 to 8 feet tall, but again, there are lots of different cultivars out there that are smaller. They have these beautiful green leaves that change to red in the fall. You can't see it in these pictures, but it also has exfoliating bark, so once the leaves come off, it's still pretty in the wintertime because it's got all the peely bark. It has white flowers. Sometimes they're fragrant, and they usually are white and then sort of change over time to pinkish shades. And they actually will stay on the plant all year round. From pink, they go to brown, and you can leave them up till the following spring. So it's a very pretty 3-season shrub. And it's just extremely drought tolerant. It's very tolerant of a wide range of soils. Yes?
I heard of something called a lace cap hydrangea. Is that?
That's not this. The lace caps, those are the big blobs ones that you see that they're like pink and blue, or the lace caps, I guess, are more the white ones, or is that just the? They're blue too. Okay, it's just the type of flower that they are. It's a different plant than these. Those, I believe, need a little more sun, right, to bloom, and they can be different colors and stuff. This one's the native one that's just, you can put it in shade, you can put it in sun. The soil pH won't affect the color of this. It's a different plant. Okay, urban situations, if you're, down county, you might have compacted soils or something. There are some choices out there for you. Hawthorns are a good urban tolerant plant. There's a lot of resistant selections from natives available. They tolerate a wide range of sites and adverse conditions. It's one of the toughest small flowering trees. And you want to plant this one in full sun. And these are 2 cultivars that I know personally because I scout them for growers, and they do really well in our area. They get very few problems, and that's the Crusader hawthorn. It's, small. It's 15 to 20 feet tall. That's a great one to put in a small situation. It'd be a good street tree, so you wouldn't have to worry too much about power lines or topping the tree that you don't want to do. It's pollution tolerant, it's disease resistant, and it doesn't have a whole lot of thorns on it. And the Washington hawthorn Winter King is another good one. It's a little broader, it's a little slower growing, but they're very pretty flowers and they have lovely berries. It's a nice small flowering tree, much nicer than that Bradford pear. Hedge maples are also nice. It's another small one, would do well under small situations in urban areas. It tolerates a wide variety of conditions, including dry, compacted soils and pollution. And it also does well in full sun to light shade and has very few serious problems. The Queen Elizabeth is one that a lot of people are growing right now for sale in the landscape. It's a little more upright and uniform than the species. And that's this one right here. There's another one too. It's a little smaller, the St. Gregory. I have not seen that one personally, but it is out there. Okay, so let's look at some. All right, here's what powdery mildew looks like. Okay, and here are some cultivars of lilacs that are resistant. This is the Myers lilac, Palaban. You know, it's pretty, purple flowers, 4 to 5 feet tall, like the common lilac, only it tolerates, you know, it's mildew resistant. It tolerates shade to some degree. It'll bloom on a minimum of 4 hours of sun, which is pretty good if you don't have, you know, total sun for a lilac. It's good in a wide variety of soils, dry, moist, clayey. Has pretty dark green leaves that turn purple in the fall. And this is another nice one. I see this out, in, you know, offered for sale a lot. It's that Miss Kim lilac. It's a smaller plant. It's usually like 4 to 6 feet tall. It's got nice purple buds that open to pale lilac flowers. It flowers a little bit later, has smaller leaves. It also tolerates a wide variety of soils. It does need a little bit more sunlight to bloom. It also has pretty fall color. Okay, here's our dreaded lace bugs. And this is the kind of damage they do. They have piercing, sucking mouth parts, and they're on the underside of the leaf. So a lot of times you won't even see them. What you start seeing is your azaleas are turning yellow, and they look all speckly, and it's because they're underneath sucking the life force out of them. So here are 3 resistant cultivars for you. This is Sunglow. It's a 5 to 6 foot tall, vigorous grower. This is Elsie Lee. It's a little smaller. And this is Dream. And there are many more. I just threw, you know, a few out there so that you could see that, you know, there are some out there. Dream was actually one of the American Rhododendron Society's 2008 Plant of the Year. They're all, you know, bred at different universities for resistance to lace bugs. But don't forget, you want to make your rhodies and azaleas as happy as possible, which is dappled shade, very high organic matter soil, and you want to keep it a low pH, which means a lot of times don't keep mulching with hardwood mulch because that'll slowly raise the pH over time. So you want to use a more acidic type mulch. If you're mulching under your azaleas, you want to go with the pine bark, or something like that that's not going to raise your pH. Okay, here's some of the resistant dogwood hybrids, and I have been scouting these for over 10 years now, and they really are something else. You can see very clearly when we have those summers, you know, which ones are not getting powdery mildew, because the other ones are all cupping and curling, and their leaves are all twisting and looking nasty. So this is Celestial. It's a hybrid between our native and the Cornus florida and Cornus cousa, but the flowers look, you know, more flowering dogwood-like, not the other dogwood type. They're white with a tinge of green. It's a very vigorous, erect, uniform selection. It's highly resistant to powdery mildew and that anthracnose and the dogwood borer. So that's a really good one. Same thing with Aurora. It's another one. It's 18 by 18 feet. Vigorous, erect. It's low branching. Has very heavily flowers. White, turning creamy white as they age. Again, very resistant to the mildew, the dogwood borer. It has partial resistance to the anthracnose. And then if you like the pink versions, there's Stellar Pink. It's another beautiful one that's 20 feet tall. It's again, vigorous, erect, low branching, and very resistant to those 3 problems again.
Marie,
Yeah.
do any of those 3 turn red or colors in the fall the way the older ones do?
I believe they do. I couldn't tell you for sure, but I don't know. Do you know, Eric? I believe so.
Some of them do, but I think you can find that out if you do a little research.
Yeah, you could.
Usually tell you fall color.
Yeah.
Some of them have incredible berries on them.
Well, yeah, I didn't even mention that. You're right, Eric. A lot of these will have really beautiful berries, too, so you do get, like, you know, 3-season interest with that. Okay, there's some pretty crabs out there, too. Here are some of those hybrids I was talking about. The Calicarpa is one that, this is my nursery that I scout. This is what rust looks like on the fruit and on a leaf of a non-rust resistant crab apple. These are the Calicarpas, I believe. No, that's red opening white. This is actually prairie fire. Calocarpa has red buds that open white, fragrant red, and then with red fruit. Prairie fire is this one. It has purplish tinged leaves that are very pretty, and then the pink flowers with red fruit. And then, again, good disease resistance, good herb intolerance. And Adirondack is pretty too. It's a little more upright than the other ones. Narrow, it's kind of an inverted cone shape. So if you have a situation where you don't have quite the room that you'd like, you'd probably want to pick something like this. Flowers white with red tinged to them, and then red fruit. Another good one for disease resistance. Okay, the other thing you want to do is you want to encourage the good guys. Okay? So who are the good guys? Well, that's kind of an arbitrary statement, okay? I'm just being silly. But, okay, what's a beneficial insect? You'll see mention of a natural enemy, okay? And these can be several things. These can be predators, predator insects. Both young and adults feed directly on other insects. So that would be your lady beetles. Lacewings are another one. Syrphid flies, you'll see these guys, sometimes they call them hover flies. They look like a bee. They're flying around the flowers, but you can see that it has the fly eyes, so it's not really a bee, it's a fly. They'll lay their eggs, they hatch into legless, sort of maggoty looking things that just will go at certain aphids and other nasty things that are attacking your plants. Assassin bugs are another predator that are out there. They have these unbelievable piercing mouth parts that fold over, so they have to they go, and they unfold the mouth part, and they'll stab into those caterpillars that are eating whatever, and they'll suck them dry. It's really satisfying to watch. Things that I do outside all the time. So that's cool. They're out there. They're out there ready to do battle. You just have to entice them into your yard. There's also parasitoids, okay? These develop on or in another host insect. And a lot of times they're little tiny parasitic wasps. See, she's laying an egg right on an aphid, and that egg will hatch. It'll go into the aphid. It'll suck the aphid slowly and develop. You know, and the aphid gets all big and ugly and like hard, and then it just comes out like alien through the. So, I mean, that's cool. You want those guys in your garden. Here's some more. These guys all pupated on this hornworm. If you ever see something like that, leave it in your garden. That's a good thing. You also want to bring in pollinators. And why would you do that? Well, if you're growing any sort of vegetables, then you want those pollinators in because they're going to increase your yield. So it's very good to have them in. So this would be bees and other little insects out there. It'll increase your yields. Okay, there are other natural allies out there too, so why not encourage them in? Birds and toads can help maintain natural pest control in the gardens. 60% of a toad's diet consists of insect pests. Those are slugs and cutworms and gypsy moth caterpillars, and they eat 300 insects a night. And don't tell me how they counted, because I have no idea, but they do. They eat 300 insects a night. So, you know, the more of these things that are out there, the lower your populations are going to be, you know, pest-wise initially. Anyway, you know, seed-eating birds. In the spring when they're fledging young, they're going to go get insects to feed their babies. They're not going to feed their babies seeds initially. They're going to be feeding them all those, you know, little things that are in your yard, your caterpillars and such. That's what they're going to be doing. Woodpeckers, they're listed as the #1 beneficial predator of the bronze birch borer. You know, they'll be out there getting those bark beetles and things. So it's good to, you know, get those natural allies in your yard.
How do you get toads?
How do you get toads? Well, you plant some beneficial plants out there. You try to minimize your pesticide inputs to, you know, targeted sprays and certain things, and then you hope they come. You know, it's hard to say whether or not they're going to come or not. Amphibians are having a tough time out there, and a lot of their populations are crashing, and they're not really sure why. I can speak personally. You know, I used to have hundreds of toads coming in. I live in Cabin John, and I've been there for 20 years. And initially, I put in 2 ponds, and every year I would get like dozens of toads coming to the pond to, lay their eggs and mate and whatnot. And then about 10 years ago, when they started infilling in my neighborhood and tearing down the old houses, and we had a lot of understory and big, canopy trees, and these kind of were going away as they were clearing out lots and refilling. The populations have slowly gone down to the point where I have not had a toad in my ponds for the past 5 years, not a one, which is really sad. Nothing else has changed, but the infilling. So it's not that they won't eat the plants or anything like that, but if you've got nice areas where they can have shelter, those toad houses that you buy, half the time they have slugs under them. If you have nice shrubs out and you've got some plants out and you've got other insects that are coming in that they can feed on, then that's a nice moist habitat where they may come in.
Toads need, a cool place
Right.
to hunker down. And one of the problems I think that we run into is that people are too cleanly when they clean their beds out. You need a place that's left undisturbed because that's where they're going to live.
Right.
If you just clean all your beds out totally clean, you're probably going to disturb the toads.
Yeah, there's no place for them to
Some
be.
areas undisturbed for toads and things like that.
Mm-hmm.